Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel. I am riding the high right now of the new ban list just dropping in the TCG here. And now at the time you're seeing this, it may have been a few days since the ban list. However, for me, it's only been a couple hours and I've been hard at work prepping a bunch of new decks and ideas, seeing what could be valid and very powerful as the upcoming format approaches. Today I'm going to be discussing the potential new tier element builds that'll be popping up, a couple ways to play it, and doing some test hands to show you the general way you should go about approaching your hands now, or at least how I think we probably should. Before I continue, please like, subscribe, and comment down below if you like my content, and turn on the notification bell if you want to be notified anytime I post a video. Also, please go check out tsx1.com, where you can use the code POTATO10 for 10% off on all your sleeves. Here we are looking at my first version of tier elements, and this is probably the most standard one. You could call it Kashtira tier element or Shadal Kashtira tier element. Both of those other engines are extremely supporting and aren't win conditions in their own right. I'm not maxing out the Kashtira stuff in the sense that you can rely on them as, powerful engine. They're just mostly there because Fenrir's a free level 7 on field. That gets you to your Kashtira tier element card, which I think is very, very good. What else I like about that is lets you link pretty easily into something like Sprint, where if you have Fenrir, you can add the tier Kashtira, and then normal summon any monster, make a link to like Asa or Dark, special the Kashtira, and make Sprint, and then fuse with Merly. So if you normal summon, say, a King of the Swamp or a Shadal Squamata, you can very easily get to a fusion play that's ideal for you. And that's also assuming your Kashtira tier element hits nothing and the rest of your hand doesn't accomplish anything either. Now, I pretty much maxed out the tier element monsters that fuse and your Shizu cards. I still think those are some of the strongest cards in the game, and I will play the max amount I can. I have also chosen to only play one Rhino Heart despite it not being limited. By itself doesn't accomplish much, and the only reason I want to have it in there is that when I'm searching off Sulik or off planet, I have something to search that can normal summon and guarantee put a tier element in the grave. For specific situations, it is not all the time necessary. In fact, I'd argue frequently it isn't necessary at all. And with King of the Swamp, you also don't need it for Kaleido Heart, so I'm not overly stressed about this card not being in my hand that often. As for the Shadals, I think Winda is an incredible card. Its use against Kashtira is okay. I would like to test more to see how good it actually is in that matchup. For the most part, that card is an insane card, and having access to it is nice now that we need a new kind of win condition. So I'm playing a small Shadal package. You want to mill 2 Squamatas and the 1 Hollow. Hollow's nice because lets you keep milling cards. It's almost like an Ishizu. You don't really mill that many in comparison to the Ishizu stuff, but even milling 2 cards does get you through your deck. With this deck, because you have so few tier element cards, I wanted to slim the deck to 40 as much as possible. Now you can kind of go through all your cards a lot faster. I have 6 tech cards right now in this deck. I feel like that's a decent number without making it too bricky, although those numbers are very early on and could easily change as I mess around with ratios and how I feel the format is. Right now they're geared towards Kashtira, but those utility cards will change vastly depending on how I feel the format shifts over the next week or two. I am playing 3 Scream. I still think this is one of the best cards in the game for tier elements because you get to play on both players' turns constantly, and even if you have less good mills, if you just deck them a bunch and have these tiers in your deck, it should be very strong still. And then milling it's also good to get Sulik or Meta Noise. I considered 3 Sulik because milling it is excellent, but I didn't want to draw too many cards that aren't activatable, and I did want 1 Meta Noise at least just because it's a better interrupt, and sometimes you're ending on like real Colossus and just a trap. The Sulik by itself there isn't great, and with the Meta Noise to keep getting your access to fusions. As for the extra deck, with the King of the Swamp, you have more access to other fusions. You can still make Real Kalos, extra places the Kick Kalos, and you can also make the Grapha Dragon of the Dark World. You could play Invoke Kaliga, and you could play Millenniumize Restrict. However, extra deck space is not infinite, so we do have to make some choices. This is what I decided for. And then with Polymerization, I've also chosen to play Guardian Chimera. I mean, when you're summoning Fenrir, it's easy to have a guy on field, and Chimera could help you push through a lot of fields. Now, I've also chosen to play Draco Sack in a Rise Heart for rank 7s. A Rise Heart's not a card I really plan on summoning myself that often. The reason I play it is when they activate the effect of Shangri-Ira, you can also summon this card. So then anytime you have a tier Kashtira or a Fenrir, you can make it and you can go into a Zeus line. It's not like I'm ever going to be using Shangri-Ira myself or using 3 level 7s to make it. It's just there to give you some more counterplay with Zeus when they have Shangri-Ira, or it forces them not to use Shangri-Ira in the standby phase, kind of lightening the load for what you have to deal with, which is also nice. And then Draco Sack, because with 2 level 7s, it's very easy to make, and there's a lot of Fenrir setups to get there, especially with a max amount of Fenrirs and tier cost Juras. Very often you can get 2 Fenrirs in hand and 1 tier cost Jura. And then you can use the tier cost Jura from your hand, banish, summon itself, mill 3, and assuming you whiff, which is fairly likely, you still have plays. Now you can go Draco Sack, detach 2, and summon the other difference I'm playing in this deck, and that is Cherubini. Cherubini can send from deck to grave a level 3 monster, so you can send a Havnus or you can send a King of the Swamp, and these are both good fusion materials. Now the Havnus one trigger here is a cost. However, what is important to note though is the link 2, so that you can then bridge the Draco Sack and the Cherubini to make Sprint, and then from there it's very easy to send Merly and fuse with whatever you sent up Cherubini. So you can send King of the Swamp, you can set up the Grapha, or you can set up the Rocalos. Now something I actually just realized here that I didn't mean to change was wanting to play 1 Hedgehog, and my second version does have this. I just forgot to update this one, and that is because you can also Cherubini send the Hedgehog. That way you have a Shaddoll live if you're aiming to end on Winda. You Cherubini send Hedgehog, then you sprint, put send the Merly. So that's where my head's at right now. I haven't actually play tested this at all. I've kind of just been labbing a theoretical approach. I'm very curious how it'll perform in the field. So that would be what I spend a good amount of time in the rest of the week kind of figuring out. As for my other version, it is fairly similar, but slightly different. Keeping in line with the idea that you can go into this Draco Sack play and then Cherubini, I figured, well, you can also send Water Entrances to the Temple. A very strong card with no hits in the TCG, theoretically is good. You can do that and then make Sprint afterwards to go fuse. Now obviously if we had Kit Kalos, that'd be insane, because you can use the tier cost Jura and the Merly to go fully off with the protection on Griffin. However, if you just open up anything else with it, that's great. So if you have a Shaddoll, you can send it off the adventure and then you can fuse it away, and that theoretically is an extremely high amount of value. So that could be a good prospect for the future. Also, just drawing these adventure cards is fine. I'm happy to draw them because they are very strong, and this deck doesn't have that many normal summons anymore. It also means opening up Fenrir plus Adventure gives you some rank 7 plays that could be good, and open up a lot of link options. You're not fully weak to D-Barrier like something Branded is. It's not really conflicting. The only thing that conflicts is Griffin and Fenrir don't really work well together, but I think that's pretty small. Once you have the Adventure token online, the Griffin can be summoned. And then the Adventure cards also give you more ways to activate stuff like Yugioh and Kelbeck when they are stuck in your hand, or Solix if you do want to play more graveyard effects. I didn't want to make this deck too large. It's not like I've mathed it. It's just off of instincts right now. That could very easily change if I give some more thought to it. In which case you could add some more graveyard effects or some more utility cards. But right now I'm kind of just being very quick with it, giving rough drafts. Anything that's going to be super precise will have to come later and will take significant amounts of time. It would not be out this quickly. But yeah, I think the adventure cards can give you a little more versatility. It could give you a little more power. However, theoretically, it decreases the consistency of your deck, so I'm interested to see how it'll be. Ideally, I'd like to keep the deck as slim as possible so that you have as much chance to mill the Chalaman cards when you are milling, because now obviously you have significantly less. So I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Another thing you'll note is I've chosen not to play set rotation right now, because most of the time I feel like I'd want to get Primeval Planet Pearl Rhino. I don't want to give my opponent the Kashtra field spell. If I feel like a lot of players are going to be playing Fenrir, that may be a bit of a mistake. Oftentimes you can pop it, but it's not always. I'm undecided how I feel about it, but right now I feel like I have so many field spell accessors that it's not the biggest deal. It's not something I've just straight up neglected. It's something I thought about but then decided against, but it's not something I'm firm on. Now, something that's also not in here is Foolish Burial that you could consider trying. Now with less tiers to the deck, it's less likely you see all of them on the first turn, or as often. Same with the Shufflers or the Millers or even the Enchantress or the Shaddolls. So maybe Foolish Burial has a spot in this deck once again. That's very easily something I could see. I just have not really done enough physical hands with the deck. Let's go into the solo mode and see what we can do. Let's see how we want to play this. You have a couple options here, so this is pretty easy. Get Fenrir out, and this can get Tier Kashtara. Now, if we didn't have the rest of our hand, it'd be very easy to normal summon this, and then make any Link 2, like Ausa, or even IP, if we wanted to play that, because IP is nice because it makes Sprint on the opponent's turn, and then summon Tier Kashtara and mill 3, and then kind of see what that mills, and then maybe be able to set up something in the future there. So would I mill there, or I mill them early, which is actually pretty not great. We could have played it from there, what we want to do. Before I continue, actually, I did forget to mention there's no Garura in this deck. If you're not playing Super Poly, you don't really have a great way to summon it. Using 2 tiers in your grave is kind of unlikely. I've decided not to put it in the deck for now. I'm not sure if that will continue that way, but as for now, left it out. But for this hand, I can add anything, and let's say I want to add, what do I want to add here? Say I want to add Enchantress. Or I feel like there's a good chance I can mill Enchantress, and then I'd want to have the Griffin in my hand, and I don't really need the token, so I'm going to get Griffin. I think Maybe a little greedy, but it's fine. It doesn't matter that much here because I can send the Sulik, and that gives me a target to activate the Tirkash Dura, while also meaning I get to search now. So I'm going to get, I think I'm just going to get Sharon so I can put the Kaldo engrave, or I could just get another Tirkash Dura. I feel like I'd want to mill more, even though Tirkash Dura could be a good follow-up. This could be a mistake, and I'm going to have to learn from my mistakes here, but I'm going to add Sharon for now because I want to put this in the grave. I want to try mill a Rite of Aramis here. And I want to just get going. Activate Sharon first, I think. I want to put this in the grave in case I mill a Yugioh or Kalbeck, and I'll save the Tirkash Dura. Say I mill this. I made a mistake here. I should have activated the Fateful first. Just put it on the field. That way when I summon the Fenrir, I can add this to hand. So let's imagine I have this here. My mistake entirely. Then you get to mill one new card. So ordering is important, and it gets needs help. Oh, it made a world of difference there. Now I can use these again, and I'm going to do Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. I only have one Sulik left, and I want to keep it in my hand. This Remetter Noise may be incredible, so that may be something I still wanted to have in my deck, but it's fine. And then I will also grab the... Or then I get to mill 2 cards. Anything here is fine to mill. Merly and what's it called? Right. So the right doesn't matter if I mill. This can add from grave, but also I have more in deck. So do I want to use the Merly here? Do I have anything good to summon with it? No, I just don't have anything I can summon with it because I don't play Garura, so I cannot use it. That would be a little annoying because obviously I'd want to be able to fuse with Sprint later, but it's not the end of the world. So instead, what I can do is use this now and thin my deck a bit. Special the Griffin. Now I can banish Sulik. I'll play as if I may have a Grief in my deck, even though they know I don't. They don't know I don't. Or sorry, I know that I don't, so it'll never happen. They don't know that. I'll mill 3 more. Nothing. Oh, Kalbeck. 5 more. And again, I'm just trying to hit Shaddolls or King of the Swamp or something. So Rhino Heart is a good card to have. I don't have the field spell. That would have been really good. But I can mill 5 or mill off this. I think it's 5 because I have 5 different attributes. No, it's 4. So milling 4 here is fantastic. Get some more different cards in the grave. Squamata, and I hit a Medora. Cool. So I can use Squamata here to just put Hedgehog. Deck thinning is great. I don't want to have that many cards in my deck. You want to have less in deck. That way when you're milling your opponent's turn or using any effects, you're more guaranteed to get what you want. So now I can overlay, and I'm going to summon Dracosack. I'm going to use 2 tokens to make... I could always put back the Merly, because I can make Kaleido Heart, which I think is pretty good. Put this in grave, and then that puts back the Merly and the Rhino Heart, which is great. And then I can also just... So I can make IP, which is fine. And then I can make Wind on their turn. I have the 2 Shufflers. Or what you can do is make Cherubini and send this to the grave. So this is live for next turn. And then link off something to make Sprint. I have the Sulik to combo with Kaleido Heart, which is pretty strong. It's weakened to Bestials, but it's not the end of the world. I have the Nibiru as well. I have the Shufflers in grave. I have Enchantress for follow-up as well. The Shufflers can put back your rights pieces as well for continued power. So yeah, that's one sample hand. It's still very flexible, and the options are still quite, grand. It's not like you're limited to just like these small plays now. And while this may not seem as crazy as it was before, this is just a sample of what you can do. And that hand was fine. It wasn't anything exceptional. So I hope you guys see the same promise in this type of Chairman deck that I do. And I'm curious to see what other innovations other people can come up with. And if maybe I can figure out something else as well. I will hopefully be posting some more Tielma videos, although I won't flood you guys. I know a lot of people are sick of this deck. I'm probably the exception. Until next time, guys, where I will continue to be talking about the current TCG meta in light of this new Forbidden list.